Make sure all y'all on camera, so that's all right. Unless y'all want to. Is that good, Miss Will? There's a chair right here and over here if you want as well. You're right now, sit on the stool, I can move some of those over for you. Sure. You watch her. She's a wily one. You ready? Yeah. All right, we're going, eh, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all coming out today for Coffee with the Mayor. It is finally April. Finally. March was like a line for a while, but you know, it's okay. We made it in April, and we'll see how May and June go after this, right? We are at Crosspointe Church down here in the heart of Bryan, right next to the high school. I want to thank Pastor Ryan for allowing us to use his facilities this morning here and having coffee with the mayor. It's a beautiful facility. If you've never been in this church, they've done a wonderful job on their updates. And I have to keep looking because I got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're also happy to see all the new businesses that are starting to show up in the heart of Bryan. Over at the shopping mall on Reynolds Road. We have Medic Pharmacy that's over there. They built their new facility over there and moved across the street. And Howard embroidered personalized gifts, Levi Lyman Barber, which I know a couple of people in here that use that place and say they do a good job. Unfortunately, I don't know much about that. I went in there and said, I don't see how you can help me much, but he goes, well, maybe trim your mustache, so I might have to go over there for that. We have True Boutique and I Betty's Art Cakes. I went over there and man, their cakes and stuff that they have looks pretty good too.
I like cake.
I do too, as we can tell sometimes. Anyway, I appreciate everybody coming out, and Crosspointe Church has done a phenomenal job in this area of improvements and upgrades and doing things to help the city and the citizens of the city out of the goodness of their heart. And I'm going to have Ryan come up and talk a little bit about the things that they have done here, because it is really phenomenal. Ryan, how you doing this morning?
Good, how about you?
Oh, I'm surviving.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you all here at Crosspointe, and I'm glad y'all can join us on.
Absolutely, thank you. So what kind of improvements have y'all done now?
Oh, goodness, are you talking about the building or everything?
Everything.
Yeah, well, okay, Crosspointe, not to get long-winded here, Crosspointe.
That's okay,
will be.
Pastor, you can do that.
Sure. Yeah, y'all don't have anything to do with the tip-off is like at 5 o'clock tonight. Crosspointe will be 8 years old this fall, and so we didn't know what this would be. We didn't know we'd be here in this building, but I'm glad we are. I think the Lord has put us here. We have a great relationship with the school, the city, and the neighborhood around here. We're trying to cultivate that and be a blessing to this part of town in as many ways as we possibly can. So, the building, I mean, we've done some things here that kind of create a little bit more of a community kind of space with this. The room that we're in now has been opened up. We do a lot of receptions and that kind of thing. You've seen the front porch. Probably most people will notice and identify Crosspointe with the front porch that we put on. So it's just a great place to. I think I use it more than anybody. Sometimes I'll be out there studying.
I see it pretty regularly.
I'm not sure I'd be out there than in my office. And long story short, I mean, we acquired, I guess by now, 3/4 of the block that's across the street from us. When we first moved in here, we had the building with Ball and Shell rents that came with the purchase from First Baptist Church, which is just a dear congregation. They were very helpful in helping us transition into this place, and I'm happy for them where they are on Highway 5. Acquired a rent house that was behind the Ball and Shell building, and we began to pray for a few years about the best way to bless the community that surrounds us, and so we began exploring the possibility of repurposing that area for a community park, a local park, and what can we do that would be more useful to more people. And so we've installed a playground. We removed that house that was there. We put some food truck hookups. We've done a couple events over there. We're very much in the developmental stage. I mean, that house hasn't been torn down for more than 9 months. You know? And so we're building it. We got a farmers market that the Chamber of Commerce approached us about maybe trying. So we're piloting that this spring, so April, May, June, the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month from 5 to 8 p.m. We'll be doing that. Have a couple food trucks out. Jimmy's Jerk Chicken, I know you're a fan.
I am.
They'll be here April 14th. Bomax will be here. We got several good vendors.
Put that on my calendar.
Yeah. We got a really good entertainment act coming. Kortzmeyer's, a couple from Little Rock, I believe. They're kind of a crossover classic rock country kind of duo.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, we got some other acts that are coming for the farmers market, so we're really looking forward to that. What else we got going on? Easter obviously is coming up soon, so make sure everyone don't leave without getting one of these. We do something here, a tradition that we've had to kind of can because of the pandemic.
Right.
We're going to bring that back Good Friday. So on Good Friday, we open up our church from 4 to 8 p.m. And we have what we call the Good Friday experience. So what that is 7 different stations that kind of depict different elements of the crucifixion story of Jesus Christ. You know, the 30 pieces of silver that betrayed him, the wood on the cross, the spikes that were used, the veil that's torn is my favorite stop. So there's a devotional guide that people will use that walk through. And it's very good for kids too, because it's interactive, it's taste, touch, feel, smell, fragrances, those kinds of things. And so I love it. I love it. One of our best traditions that we do, and I'm glad we now get to bring it back for this year.
That's cool.
So that at the end of the month, we got a daddy-daughter dance that we're doing here. I know the school system has been pretty cautious, and rightly so, about large gatherings and those kinds of things. And so we're going to fill that void. We don't want to replace what they're doing at all.
Right.
So we're just holding the line for a year until they get it. But that's April 29th. We've got that coming up.
Y'all are being real busy.
It's gotten busy, yeah.
Which is kind of nice, because if your church is like my church, when the pandemic hit, it's been really painful for the church to try to deal with that, how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And going virtual for so long, and then trying to draw people back in.
Yeah, it's been very hard to navigate through that, but our people have been fantastic.
Anything else happening in this area that y'all are planning development-wise that you can share with us?
Okay.
I'm sure you've got some ideas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we acquired the building that was Village Antiques for many years, and so we're repurposing that for I think the primary service for us is going to be that's going to supply bathrooms to the park.
Okay.
So we're building a little walkway that's going to go in the rear of that building, and so we'll have restroom facilities. That's been a riddle we've tried to figure out how to put affordable restrooms in there. And so we're also looking for a suitable tenant. We want something that's going to complement the new businesses that you mentioned earlier, and that's going to complement the park and be a service to downtown Bryan.
I bet you'll find them.
What's that?
I bet you'll find them.
Yeah, I hope so. So, but you and I were talking earlier, just getting that to that point has been difficult. But that's a project that we got our hands full with right now as well. So,
well, we're excited for everything y'all have been doing down here, and anything we can do, let us know.
Okay, let me show you something you can do. This is shameless plug. Who wants to buy a t-shirt? It's an Easter t-shirt. Okay, so Crosspointe gets $10 for every T-shirt that our
How much are they?
purchases are $20.
$20, okay.
And so we can send you a QR code, and you can or a link. You can purchase one of these, and $10 that
I
goes
might have $20 in my pocket.
directly to the park. So anyway, that's available.
Cool. Thank you, Ryan.
You bet.
I appreciate that. Just as an aside, Ryan's talking about Easter and everything else like that, which brings the fact that spring is here. And with spring comes yard work, trimming the trees, trimming the bushes and stuff like that. And please don't forget your yard waste program that we have here. It's a great program. It's a free program. All you have to do is if you have grass clippings and stuff, they have to be in a paper bag, which you can get at Lowe's and stuff. If it's limbs and whatnot, you just take those and set them out by the road. And then you go on the city website, www.citybryant.com, and follow the links. I believe it's under community involvement is where we have it now. And you click in there and you'll see a link for debris pickup or yard waste pickup. You click that, fill it out. If you get it in by the Monday before, the pickup is on every Tuesday. So if you get that in by Monday before, they will come around and pick it up on Tuesday. It's free of charge to the residents. It's a great way to help minimize yard burning and stuff like that, because I know some people have issues with respiratory issues, and that's something we've really been working on. It's been very successful. We have several hundred pickups a week.
Wow.
Which is really cool. So I'm happy for that. It's a great program, and I'm hoping it continues to grow. So keep doing that. And talking about website, one of the things I said as I became mayor was I wanted to increase the communication between the residents and us. And excuse me, I'll get my words out in a minute. One of those things is getting the information to the residents about things that are going on in the city. The previous website we had is what was just
Functional.
yeah, fun. Dana was kind enough to say it's functional. I was about to say it was just kind of crappy myself. But Dana's more articulate than I am, I guess, this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. But it was, as she said, it was functional, and it was barely functional at that. At the first year, right at the end of last year, we contracted with DMT Media to redo our website. And they did that. We rolled it out in early January, and we've continued to start improving on that. And we're continuing to improve on that. So with part of that, we've done an improved agenda center. It's easier to read the agendas, easier to get to the agendas. The agendas now contain much more information about what those particular items are. If it's an ordinance, there's a little place for a description that tells you what that ordinance is. Or if it's a resolution, what that's about. It's important for you to know what those things are so you can express your opinions to your council members on whether you think that's a good idea, bad idea, or you just don't care one way or another. But that's important for the council members to know, because they're the ones that vote on those resolutions and ordinances. And of course, resolutions are just directions, basically, and ordinance winds up being like municipal city law. So it's important for you to be involved on that. So please go visit that city calendar. Most of the departments, I believe, now have a city calendar, and you go on there, you can find that in their department pages, but it also links to the main calendar that's on the page as well. So you can see the different things that the different departments are doing, be it adopt a dog program or adopt a pet program with animal control or whatever that happens to be. Different meetings are on there as well. So if you're interested in the water committee, it tells you when the water committees are, it tells you when parks committees are, it tells you when council meetings are, it tells you if we have special workshops, it tells you when those are. So it's a great little thing there. The community engagement page, which is what I was talking about before, it was called Report of Concern before. And I have to look at this because it's got all kinds of stuff on this list about it. Easy one-click buttons, you can schedule yard waste pickups, send street and pothole requests. So if you see an issue with the streets, or you see a pothole, because this is now the time where potholes really start showing up, let us know where those are so we can get out there and get those scheduled for fixing. Service requests, if you have some other service, if you see an area where you think there may be a water leak, put it on there so we can go check it and see if that is a water leak or not, because it's important for us to know if our main lines are leaking, but it's also important if we can tell that that is a leak for the resident, it's important for us to be able to notify that resident that they may have a leak as well, because that could affect their water bill. And it's always important to do those things. A project page, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit with Ted Taylor, city engineer, it is turning into something really phenomenal. With that project, we have several projects on there right now. We're continuing to add projects. As I said, it's a growing process. And on those projects, it's really nice because it shows them. And then you can subscribe to either all the projects and get notifications on all the projects that are happening in the city. Or if you have a particular project in your neighborhood that you're wanting information on, you can subscribe just to that project and get information on that when we put new information out there. It's a great way for you to know what's going on in your neighborhood and other people's neighborhoods too, if you're a little bit nosy about their neighborhoods, which I'm nosy about all of them. City notifications, you can sign up for different notifications. When we have a council meeting, you get notified. It's a great way to know when things are happening, so you don't have to necessarily go to that calendar and look either. Our job as a city really is to just get the information to you, but it's also important for you to provide us with feedback as well. And one of the neatest things on the website, I think now, is, where is that located at on the website?
The website feedback
Yeah, the website feedback.
on every page.
On every page. It's at the bottom of every page, right? So if you have feedback for the city, you can fill that out, and it lets us know it actually, that feedback goes straight to Dana, if I remember right.
Yeah, and the website feedback button, if you'll, that's specifically like if there's something we should change or something that's hard to find, or you have a suggestion, put it there. And then there's an email on every page, either to that department or just to info@cityofbryant.com. If you're wanting more information on something, you can send an email to that.
Some other things we have on there, we have, of course, HR is on there, human resources is on there. So if you're interested in getting a job with the city, you can go to HR, the HR page, and it'll tell you what that job is. You get the job description, and you can apply for that job online as well. There are always job openings in the city. Most of them were figured in. Thought somebody's coming in, but I guess they changed their mind. I don't know. If you're a business and you need to receive bids for different projects, that's on there as well. You can subscribe to those, and you can get the bids for whatever projects you're interested in bidding on. Because as you know, with big projects, the city of Bryan needs to bid those out to make it fair and equitable. Some other, we have resources. We have a business center. I just lost my stuff, sorry. Contains information, business center contains information from development codes and business license. If you want to do business in Bryant, that's where you go first. Social media integration, we've integrated our different Facebook and I think Instagram feeds, whatever feeds we have, they show up on the website as well. It's a great, clean, powerful website, and it's ADA compliant, which the previous website wasn't. So please, please, please go to www.cityofbryant.com. Look in it, investigate it. If you have recommendations for things that we can add on there or improve, let us know on that feedback too, because we're always looking to make things better. Just like Crosspointe Church is and Pastor Enville. It's always about making it better, right, Ryan?
Always.
Always. A couple of other updates. I'm going to get Ted up here in just a minute, but I want to tell y'all a couple of big things that's happening is the Bryant Parkway. You may have heard that we've finally gotten all of our final approvals for the Bryant Parkway. This has been a challenge. This has been a process that the construction of Bryant Parkway actually started with the previous mayor. And it has been my job as mayor, because there are a bunch of other approvals that needed to be done from the FAA, from the Federal Highway Administration, from RDOT, from Union Pacific. All these different entities we had to get their input and approval for this project. And it wound up being my job to get those approvals. And as everybody knows, a lot of times government can be a little bit slow, especially when you're talking federal government and you're talking state government. Bryan, we're fast. But I tell you who's even slower sometimes, and that's Union Pacific. They're just a big behemoth, and it is crazy how long it took us to get those approvals from them. They approved the plans for the bridge, so that's no problem. But then they had to go back and approve something else about it, and that took probably 6 more months for that approval, and it's crazy. But anyway, we've got all those approvals. We submitted our final thing to RDOT, and in the next week or so, we should get an approval to advertise this project for bid. So at that point, we'll advertise it for bid. At the same time, we're in the process of purchasing the right-of-way because we've gotten all that approvals done now as well. And we'll get the right-of-way done from the airport. We'll put it out to bid. It'll go out to bid for a month, I believe?
Yes, 3 to 4 weeks, that's right.
3 to 4 weeks, and then we'll take those bids in and we'll evaluate those bids and we'll pick the proper person to do this project. It includes a bridge and a road, so it's a major, major project. But it will change the city of Bryan. It's like you can't believe. If everybody lives here knows Reynolds Road is crazy.
Yes.
There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of truck traffic on Reynolds Road. And a lot of that truck traffic comes from Granite Mountain area, the quarries out by the airport. And a lot of those trucks, when they're leaving, they will start getting on the Parkway once we get it constructed, and they'll bypass downtown or the Reynolds Road at all. And people that are going from the south side of town, if they're going to Little Rock, instead of going all the way through down Reynolds Road, they can now take the Parkway when that's constructed. Construction is estimated to be about 24 months for this project. So because it's a big project, but it's good. Ryan's giving a call. So that's good. We got that. We'll get started on that. Feel free to do whatever you need to. It's all good. All of a sudden, everybody starts checking their phones. But hey, mine's still on ringer. So if it rings, we'll know about it too. It's all good. Truett's got some, I don't know, did you bring anything about trails in here, Truett?
No, sir, I forgot.
That's okay. I just saw you maybe bring a poster about it. Well, we've got a couple of new trails, if you know. We've done a trail through Alcoa 40 Park where the dog park is. And we've wound that through there, and it terminates in one spot. But if you walk down that trail to where that trail ends, and you stand there, in a little while, once we start the Parkway again, that trail will continue on, and it'll go across the bridge at the railroad, go down Parkway, all the way to the south side of town. So we'll have that trail. In addition, we've gotten a grant just about a month ago, I guess it was, to make a connector trail from that new trail in Alcoa 40 Park over to Mills Park. So once we get that connected, you'll be able to walk on the trail in Mills Park and take that other trail and walk all the way over to Alcoa 40 Park, or run, or whatever you want to do. But if you're like me, last time I went running, I tripped and fell and hit my ribs. So just be careful while you're out.
Don't sue the city.
That was a joke. I'm going to tell that joke, okay? Because after I fell in Mills Park and I hurt my ribs, I thought I cracked them, but I think I bruised them real bad. It's been about 3 weeks now, and I still have some issues with them. But the next couple of days later, I reached out to Parks Director and I said, hey, I heard somebody fell in Mills Park and they're going to sue the city. And we start talking about it, and he goes, well, who was it, blah, blah, blah. And I finally let him in on the secret there for me. The only thing that would have been better was if it would have been April Fool's.
Thanks for that, Mayor.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Thanks for playing along. But anyway, I'm not suing anybody. It's my own fault for not picking up my feet, as my wife says. We do have some other updates we want to talk about. I'm going to bring Ted up for that because we're going to talk about some stormwater projects. As you know, one of the things I've done since I came on is we've really concentrated, believe it or not, on stormwater projects, but we have limitations on it. One of those limitations is money, unfortunately, because we collect a fee from residents and businesses, right, Ted?
That's correct, that's correct.
And if you have a house, what fee, how much does it cost for stormwater?
It's $3 per resident.
$3 per resident. And if you're a business, no matter the size of the business, be it Walmart or a gas station, what's the cost for that?
It's twice, it's $6.
$6. So we charge a stormwater fee, $3 for each house, each residential property, and $6 for each commercial property.
A year?
No, that's on your monthly.
That's your month.
On your monthly bill?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not a very big amount, and what that gathers up is about how much money a year.
It's about yes, exactly, it's around 200.
So basically, that fee generates about $250,000 worth of revenue to fix the stormwater issues in the city. And if anybody's lived in this city for any length of time, they know some areas have historically bad stormwater issues. I mean, if you haven't lived in this city for any length of time, I will tell you, some parts of this city have historically bad stormwater issues. And we've been working on that, but our limitation's been money. One of the nice things we were able to do recently is release $1 million to help with that project. In addition, we've gotten some rescue funds from the state, the federal, the ARPA funds that they call them, the American Rescue Act funds. They're giving us two sets of money, $2.1 million last year and $2.1 million this year. Unfortunately, with that ARPA money, it can only be used for certain things. One of those things is stormwater, and we're going to use some of that money for stormwater projects so we can kind of kickstart a couple of things that we've not been able to do because of the cost. Otherwise, we'd have to set and save our money until we have enough money for the project. Or council has to, of course, when we do these projects and get these big things, and if we have to get money from like general fund, council has to approve those funds. So that's the way we do it. So tell us about some of the projects that we've done and some that we're doing right now.
Sure, so there is a handout. You're going to see that on the website too eventually, probably within the next week or so. It'll be kind of akin to the projects page. And also just on the projects page, they'll give you a point of contact. And I mean, there'll be a phone number, but if you can, send it by email. It gives us an opportunity to be able to answer it probably more thoroughly than just talking about it. And I think the address will be engineering@cityofbryan.com. And also we're real good about question and answer. In fact, if you guys have any questions right now, feel free to jump up because I do better at question and answer. If I start talking about something, it's I think somebody expressed it may have been Chris Treat that was akin to just taking a drink from a fire hose. I'll keep going and going and going and going.
Just remember, he's an engineer. Okay?
Yeah, so, I do real good with questions. So like I said, if you guys got questions, if you want to email, you can try to call. Sometimes, we're pretty busy. I think on that list there, there's two sheets there. You can kind of see historically what we've done for the last 4 years. And as the mayor said, we get about $250,000 a year for that. But if you notice, those don't equate. That doesn't add up. Those numbers are like twice that we spend per year for the last 4 years. Except for last year when we had the $1 million release that, we burned through that pretty quickly. The other sheet shows the future projects that we've got on the books as well as what we're actively completing from last year. And if you notice that number's like $20 million. Well, that definitely doesn't add up to $250,000 a year. So, the need is there as far as doing stormwater projects. It is one of those things where it's the most passionate that citizens are about. If their yard's flooding, if their house is flooding, if they can't get to work, that's serious. And we take it very serious. So, like I said, you can reach out to us. Also, too, please reach out to us. Once again, I stress usually email because then we have a historical chain of where, people wrote in about something, and then we can identify that project and put it on a list and see about getting it accomplished.
I got a question for you, Ted. Let's say we have a drainage way that has a series of issues along that drainage way. Maybe that totals up to $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Where along that drainage way do you have to start?
Well, you don't want to create a bottleneck. You don't want to start where the water is created. You want to start at where the water is released. And so that kind of sets the pathway of how you see projects. I've heard it time and time again. People say, well, you help that person down there. When are you going to help us? Well, we're following a logical path that you do it at the point of the tailwater where it discharges and you work back up the stream towards where we have other problems. We've got, if you remember, for folks and long-term citizens, we had a pretty significant flooding event in 2017.
I remember.
Yeah, and that was a nasty one. But there have been worse ones. And it's as horrible it is to say, there's good information that comes out of those events. You can see where the problems are. They help you identify those problems. Also, if you have a problem, if water gets in your house, call somebody. We'll put us, you can contact us, but we're going to put you in contact with Arkansas Department of Emergency Management. And they send people out to assess the problem, and that information gets shared, and it gets shared with us, and then that helps us identify areas of hotspots.
Hey, Ted, just a quick question. How long has it been since the city of Bryan's had water in a house?
Pardon?
Water in a house due to flooding?
I mean, it's one of those things we don't know sometimes because folks don't report. But in the last, 2 years, it hasn't been like it was in 2017. But, the rainfall event in 2017 was kind of a big thing at the time. Yeah, I think we put it somewhere in between a 25 and 50-year rainfall event. And I hate to use those terms, rainfall event, because everybody will say, well, you say it's a 100-year rain. We had one last year, and then we had one next year. Well, let's think about it a little bit different. That's a percentage. So a 100-year rainfall chance is a 1% chance that it'll happen that year. Now, I don't particularly play the lottery, but I don't, folks do. If people thought they had a 1% chance of winning the lottery, they'd be down there in line to play, even though it's only a 1% chance. So that's kind of that deal where it can happen more frequently than you think. And it's not the city as a whole. It's a little bit isolated area where that can happen, where you get a concentrated rainfall event, and then, you get a flash flood condition. So, and if you look at the city as a whole, those percentage chances are more likely to happen in very concentrated areas.
Not only the houses, we've also have a couple of areas in the city where it's a safety issue for flooding over roads, correct?
Exactly. The way that we approach the decision of which projects we do is a matter of hierarchy. And the first one is public safety. If people can't get to work, or the ambulances can't get to an emergency need, or a fire truck, or the police can't get somewhere, that's a big thing. Those are the things that we try to jump on first. The second thing is if people are displaced, if they get forced out of their house, that's bad. So those are our next priority. And then if there's, structural damage to yards, to infrastructure, those come in, unfortunately they come in towards the last, but we do all projects. We also try to tier our projects where we have one big project, a couple of medium-sized projects, and a bunch of small projects. So we're trying to, canvass the area as far as getting these things done. So that's the stormwater part. As you can tell, like I said, I ain't gonna talk for hours on it. I went to council.
Like to talk about it.
Yeah, so, it also, the engineering department also looks at other projects too. We provide construction oversight for like the trail, the parkway. And we have some other big projects coming in. Chris Treat probably mentioned a few of his park projects coming up.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna heat him up for it. He might not know it yet.
Yep. And once again, go to the website, it's a cool thing. It's gonna change. This time next year, it'll look probably different. There'll be a lot of other stuff on it. And,
Do y'all have any questions about any of this so far? It is a lot of information. It's a lot to digest. If you do have questions, if you're out there in the audience, watching this video, I don't know if we're live or not today, but if you're watching live, feel free to send us a question if you want to. Somewhere, I don't know where we'll see that, but our trusty Dana can deal with that.
Ted, what's your favorite project you've done at the city of Bryan so far? Your favorite.
Man,
your personal favorite.
My personal favorite. Man, I'd have to say, the sections of the things that, you start from beginning and take all the way to the end of completion. The section of the parkway was great. And I had skepticism. I'm like, shared use trail? Oh my God, who's going to use this thing? And it's beautiful. And I was blown away at how many people, you go out there every day and there's like, between 5 and 10 people walking. It's a great thing.
So far, yeah.
Now, they are expensive, the roadway trails are expensive, but that's okay. So, yes, sir. I know you. We're out of time here.
Well, you have a great employee. We've met several times doing surveys.
Sure.
basically I guess the main sewer line for the city of Bryan goes right through my property.
That's
Okay.
correct, yep.
So, I'm very interested in a couple projects, I guess in 14 and 15.
Uh-huh,
And of course, from my perspective, I mean, I've lived in Bryant since 2010, but of course, when I bought my 5 acres, I didn't realize that the main sewer line for the city of Bryant ran
Right.
right through my property. And so they've been on our property surveying, evaluating the nature of stormwater. So for me, one of the things that always concerns me is new construction at Bryan,
mhm.
especially on top of Boone Road, where it's on top of Boone Road and all that
That's a
water.
great
All
question.
that water is gonna go through my property.
Yes. Yep.
So my concern, and I know,
Mhm.
it's just, I mean, what's the reality of that? Because
Yeah.
it seems to me twofold. One, we talked about the whole reality that maybe you have to dig up a whole sewer line
Mhm.
and replace, and of course.
One of the things I can say with regard to the stormwater aspect of that with new development, and Ted can do much better, is whenever a new development, be it residential or commercial or whatever, comes in, they're required by law not to put any additional water out of their system than it comes in. So if they do something that increases the runoff, they have to have some way to mitigate that, to slow that water down, to hold that water, so you don't get any additional water at a greater rate of water is what I would think.
That's correct, it's spot on. Basically, and also too, is they can't, if there's a downstream problem, that development has to put effort towards fixing that downstream problem. I mean, we use an expression is you can't put a larger pipe in a smaller pipe. So if there's already a problem, they have to not only discharge below the rate of pre-development, they got to help assist with that problem too. And because once again, these projects are expensive, and we try to be as developer friendly. And there's a lot of cases where that development helps. It helps problems as far as, like we have one in particular, and it's a slow process. And if you notice how fast things are growing, and it's tough because it slows the process down. But a development by the time they come in and send plans to Truett, they're wanting to start construction within a month, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we got to review this. We got, if there's a problem downstream, we got to figure it out. We worked with a developer, and it turned out great. Was that they actually built a lot larger detention basin, which basically holds the water than they would have had to, even by our own standards, because they wouldn't be releasing it the same rate downstream. So now they're even going to decrease how much pre-development discharge is going to be. And they're also going to assist by help us build the infrastructure at the problem downstream of it. So that's a kind of a success story for having a development come through and fix that. Now, on your particular, you also talked about the sewer line, which is, to me, that's a very fascinating subject, and that's not what we're even here talking about. So we can turn the fire.
No, we can talk about that.
That's just a general concern,
Yeah.
and to me, it's a concomitant with that one, goes with that is, now, I was coming back to running some errands the other day on the access road, and when you're coming there off of like Woodland and then you have that access and you cross back over and so at 3 o'clock, in schools and cars are backed up almost down, and I'm thinking, okay, you're gonna put 100 units here, you're gonna put, we don't have the infrastructure regardless of the parkway for more and more and more. And so my perspective is kind of like, well, hold on, what's the vision for the city of Bryan? Because when I relocated back to Arkansas in 2009 from Georgia, and I was selecting communities, where was I going to live? I looked at Cabot, I looked at Conway. At the time, I worked in Little Rock. I looked at Saline County. I evaluated schools. I made, I had a lot of variables to consider why I chose a community. And so there's a lot of variables that impact the community. And And my concern is always like, does the city only see their perspective like a business model? In other words, if we don't make it bigger, then we're not progressing.
Sure.
And so with that general perspective, I'm just like, well, you're bringing in people, but really our roads, all that's gonna do is make our community, for the people who've already lived here and invested in it, paid taxes for many years, participated in it, contributors to the community. To me, that seems like it devalues the community. So, I mean, I guess I'm just asking general and not to be I'm just, what's our perspective here about growth?
One of the things, well, from my perspective is, of course, you'd much rather have a city growing than shrinking.
Yes.
Because if you have a city that's not growing, even if it's a very small growth, which is fine, then you've got some problems in that city that you cannot address. We've worked really hard to start addressing some of those problems. One of the things when new developments come in with regard to roads is a thing called half-street improvements that they're required to do. So we have a plan, a traffic plan, I think it's ride, bike, walk, is that what it's called?
Walk, bike, drive.
Walk, bike, drive plan. And basically, that's our master transportation plan, and it identifies roads that are either arterials, collectors, different things like that. And if a development comes in that area, depending on what that road's identified as, they have to do certain things to improve that road, at least on their side of the road. Now, what that creates sometimes is a patchwork of improvements. And then it's the city's job to go in after that and kind of connect those dots, connect those segments and make it better. Trent can do a very good job of explaining.
I think to add to what you're saying there also with the plan is you're talking about like the vision and like, and how does that come? That plan went through, just like all of our plans do, a public input process. So back in, I think that was 2017 when that first came through. We had multiple public meetings, went out and tried to gather as much input as we can to go into that plan. Because really the vision is set by the community members. It's set by the residents. That's the way a great plan will work. And then that sets the blueprint for the developers that are coming in. So that the developers then know, okay, this is the code, because that plan eventually will have a code attached to it. And then that'll get passed by council, and that's what becomes a law. And they've got to follow that. But that gives them the blueprint for what's Bryant going to look like, what's the vision for Bryan, and then that way they know, the developers know about it ahead of time as they're coming in to start developing in the city.
And then just to piggyback on that, talking about the public comment, the public involvement time, once that is set, it can be changed at some point, but whatever those codes are, whatever those laws are, when a project is submitted, we have to go by. And to deny a project that is approved makes the lady in the red upset. But really, it puts the city at a legal disadvantage, so public, even though that's out there, I say that to say this, one, always look for public involvement meetings, and even if they don't look exciting, they're probably impactful. But also, it can still be changed. It can be updated. It is a living document. So if there's ever something that an area or a ward or a neighborhood wants to look at adjusting.
Yeah, we can definitely revisit something like that.
I think we're in a constant state of analyzing our codes. If it's not one thing, it's another. Last year we went through a process of redoing our food truck ordinance because we realized food trucks were becoming much more prominent in the business scape. And our code really didn't let them function as freely as the market was asking them to. So we went through that process to change that. In your specific situation where you're talking about, the subdivision there that they're doing is doing some pretty massive half-street improvements. Like there's some pretty big sections that they're taking care of. And you're right, it's not on Woodland, but they're on Boone and Mount Carmel. That ultimately will really help the traffic flow there.
In adjacent to that too, they're also aiding in a stormwater effort as far as mapping the whole area. One thing we want to talk about too is, and you'll see more of this on the website, is we've engaged a consultant to help for a citywide stormwater plan. typically, we're reactive to when they have a development. We have them, just like we said, is, they can't discharge any more downstream. Well, that's kind of narrow-sighted in the sense of, are there other problems that we try to get them to fix? We have a master plan for our roads. We have a master plan for our water. We have a master plan for our sewer. We have a master plan for our parks. The one thing we don't have is a master plan for citywide stormwater. And so we'll be engaging in things like that. And that particular developer actually helped us pay for that stuff, or for their area. So it's another case where development actually drives some things. And I think I'm about done, but I gotta say one more thing.
Okay.
Can't wait to see you in G.I. Jane too.
Is this where I get up and get
Just to give you some idea of how public involvement really can be beneficial with a public involvement meeting, last year, I guess last year by now, RDOT had a public involvement meeting for the widening of Highway 5 from where their current project is to Pulaski County line.
Yes.
As part of that is the intersection of Bryant Parkway and Highway 5. For years, ever since Bryant Parkway had been open, we've been trying to get RDOT to put a light there. Okay, we wrote letters. They said yes, it's warranted. And we said okay, and we submitted a plan for that. It was going to cost about $1.5 million about $150,000 for us to put a light in. RDOT comes back and says, no, you can't use that plan. You need to make left turn lanes that are 1,000 feet long on the Highway 5 and do all these improvements on Highway 5 and everything, where that project was ballooned to $3 million. Okay. Well, the city could not afford that. And so we said, there's nothing we can do at this time, because we knew they're going to eventually get to it. Well, they started that public involvement meeting, and we as a city mobilized a lot of people in the city. We made sure the citizens were informed, and they got on that and said, we need a light here, we need a light here, we need a light here. And I tell you what, within a week later, RDOT was calling us and saying, resubmit your plan. And now we have a light there. So it does work. Public involvement does work. So that's my greatest accomplishment for public involvement right there. And I believe we got he's dressed fancy today. He's going to maybe make an announcement. No, but yeah, you got to talk. You got to come up here.
Yes, Mayor.
I want, Truett's here too. I got too many T's here. Ted, Truett, and Chris Treat. These are the 3 T's. It's like the 3 Musketeers. He's our Parks Director, and we've done several projects recently, and we've got several that are in the works right now. Tell us about some that are in the works right now.
Well, can I revisit the flood thing?
Sure.
So this, this is always something people ask me about Bishop Park, right? No, we can't do anything about stopping that water. But what we have done is we have become probably the most efficient Parks Department I would say maybe the world, at building ball fields that withstand flooding. So when everybody is up in arms about, oh, look at that water going through there, like, was that last week?
Yeah, last week.
They were playing on they could have played on those fields the next day. So that's one of the things I would love for people to communicate to the Bryant residents, that it's okay. We have fences that give with the water. We always have a little bit of fence damage. We fixed that. We've learned how to build those fields back so that they don't get as damaged by that. So as you kind of get panicked, we've lived with it for so long. We've kind of figured out how to make
Over
it
the
work.
years, we'll gradually throw enough dirt on those fields that they'll naturally rise, and the powers that be will never know. FEMA will never know.
Oh Lord, this is recorded. On the record.
Just disregard that, please.
So anyway, projects. Well, we have, in the last 4 years, I don't know if you've noticed how much we've been able to accomplish. It's a story that I've lived, right? We built Bishop Park. It's a beautiful park, but takes a lot. And so for a while, the other parks were neglected. And in the last 4 years, Mayor Scott and City Council have made it a priority to repair those old parks and invest money in those parks. And so Ashley Park is a great example. It's a park I grew up playing.
It's the oldest park in the city.
It's amazing.
I believe, isn't that right, Miss?
It's the original.
First one, yeah.
Those ball fields are now packed. We rent those ball fields out to teams, travel teams and other teams that need space. And they are booked for the summer. And that playground is full all the time. We just finished Spring Hill Park upgrade. And I get people sending me pictures all the time that place is full.
Every day.
Every day.
I drive by every day.
I will say one thing about Ashley Park, when we did that revamp, I mean, we redid the lights and everything else. We put a new bathroom in, we put a new playground in. And now, just like at Spring Hill Park, there's kids from that little neighborhood that come over there and play just about every day. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yes. Obviously we did the dog park. The trails improvements have been great, but this year, one of the major project is the new tennis courts at Mills. I know they're terrible, but we have funding. Council has approved the funding for brand new. We're gonna add a third court, but that third court will actually be 4 pickleball courts. So we'll have pickleball all brand new there at Mills. We're also about to begin the master planning process. You'll be hearing about. We want to hear back from you on that, so you'll see more of that to come.
Another big project that we're partnering with is with the Central Arkansas Society Association, I guess it's CSA.
Yeah.
And
Soccer
doing
club.
new lights at Midland Field,
Yes. So
updating the lights and stuff like that.
There's
So
a-
kids can actually play on more than one field.
yeah, that Midland Park only had one field, only had lights on one of the soccer fields, but now all the soccer fields will be lit, which obviously helps everything.
We got a lot.
That was a huge. They gave $50,000 towards that project, so we really appreciate them. We're looking at there's several other projects that City Council they said at the beginning or at the end of last year how you could bring these back.
Right.
We're going to do some repairs at the big pavilion in Mills Park. We're applying for a grant. I don't know how many of you know this, but there's a phase 2 to the Mills Park playground, the inclusive playground. We've applied for this grant twice. We're going to apply for it again, and hopefully, if we get that
That one
grant,
finalist the last time.
yeah. Well, at some point they got to say yes.
Wear 'em down. Wear 'em down.
Come on. So that would be, if we get that grant, that'd be something we're able to do next year. But it's very encouraging for me to see parks as a major priority. And as you were talking about, as people look at where communities they're going to live, one of the big things they look at is what's your park system, what are the amenities you can offer me as far as recreation. So, did I miss any projects? Park for the tennis courts.
We're redoing some stuff in the aquatic center for the roof and stuff, but some maintenance work on that. But that's about it.
And we, things like, there's still a section of the center that the lights need to be converted to LEDs, just things like that. We're constantly looking at ways to upgrade, become more efficient, and offer better services.
Thank you, Chris. I know you have some stuff you have to do
Yeah.
today. That's why he's dressed all fancy, as opposed to me, I don't have much else to do today after this, which is kind of nice. Have a little bit of time off. Do y'all have any questions here about anything else that we've talked about? Because we covered a lot of information today, and I appreciate y'all coming out. It's always great to see people coming out. We still got some donuts over there that somebody's gonna have to eat or take home. Because I'm not allowed to have them in my house, my wife said. And I'm not gonna give you the reason she said it, but anyway. And with that, if not, then I want to say thank y'all for being here. I look forward to having these. I look forward to getting feedback from y'all on these as well. And if you think of some questions, feel free to send out an email to me or give a call. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. With that, I want to say thank y'all and see y'all later. And we will power this camera down so I don't have to keep talking and fill in the void of space. I appreciate Pastor Ingo for letting us be here too. Such a good place for something like this. We don't have to worry about weather.